Hey folks, walk with me. I had a little question come in that was basically along the lines of why does deep breathing and stretching help me feel calmer? And they specifically wanted a non-scientific answer, right? Because there's obviously studies out there. You can look at the biology of it. You can look at the neurochemistry of it, and you can certainly understand things from that perspective. What I would say is deep breathing versus shallow breathing and stretching as opposed to tightening are more ways in which the world shows us how it works. So I think when we are shallow breathing, we catch ourselves, we can barely catch our breath because we're anxious, because we're worried, because we're in fear. This is a mimicking of the frantic nature of the lifestyle that we are either engaged in or surrounded by, or the environment that we find ourselves in, right? The nonstop, like, be on your email, be on social media all day, every day, have access to everything all the time, and the frenetic pace of that, right? And your breathing then starting to mimic that. And when you take in the deep breath, right, it's when you decide to put the screens away, decide you're going to sit outside or look out your window and enjoy the view and slowly eat a bowl of soup. Or I've found myself doing this more and more recently, eating with chopsticks, because it's really hard to eat fast with chopsticks. And even if you are eating fast, your bites are such limited portion that it takes you longer to consume the meal. But it is the equivalent of that. It's the equivalent of sitting down and reading a chapter in a book as opposed to watching a movie. That settling in, that slowing down. It is antithetical to the nonstop 24/7 environment that we live in currently. And it's unnatural, right? The 24/7 nonstop, have access to everything all the time, is not natural. And we're not wired for it, we're not built for it, and it's detrimental to us. Similarly, stretching, that one I think is more along the lines of, there's some line in the Tao Te Ching that's like, the baby who's young and newborn is pliable and supple and flexible. And the old person who's on death's door is rigid and contained and tight. And, in there, the idea is in your mind, if you are more flexible, more pliable, you are more like a baby. You are more, in a good way, you are more, you have more life, you have more potential, right? This is why we love babies. They are pure potential. And why we feel less compassionate, less attached to older folks or folks as they age, middle-aged people like myself, because they become rigid and they become, narrowly defined, and in many ways have either completely exhausted their potential or at least have completely shown their potential. And so there is no seeming quality of invention or reinvention at this point anymore. So stretching and loosening up the body to the extent to which that then helps loosen up the mind, right? Opens you as opposed to closes you off. That's incredibly helpful in terms of being able to relax, to deal with more things, right? The other analogy is like, I think it's the palm trees. Obviously, I don't live where there's palm trees, but the palm trees don't always break in a hurricane because they can bend, right? Because the top of the tree can bend all the way down to the ground and touch it and still not break because it is so flexible, right? If your mind and your capacity can be that flexible and that open, you can deal with so much, you can handle so much because you invite it in and you go with it as opposed to fighting against it. And so to me, the deep breathing, the stretching are sort of very clear physical manifestations of this and can help sort of entrench the quality from a physical standpoint as opposed to trying to think, oh, I gotta calm down, right? Actually doing something to help calm your body down. You know, the body will influence the mind will influence the body. I think we often think of the mind influencing the body, but not so much, oh, how is what we're doing with our body influencing our mind, and is that how we want it to be, right? Are we intentionally doing something with our body to influence our mind in a way that we want to, as opposed to just kind of willy-nilly, doing things that I don't know why or for what reason, and just kind of going about it that way. Deep breath and a stretch. It does feel good. All right, folks. Well, if you walked with me this far or watched along, I certainly appreciate it. And as always, I will see you in the next video.